My name is Josh Jenkins. This is my FTT 104 Week 4 final practical application. Today is September 6th, 2023.
The first thing we want to do is do an ammo check to make sure that there's no ammo anywhere on my desk. And as you can see, there's not. There's no ammo either live or spent on my work area. The next thing we want to do is we want to clear this weapon before we work on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to point in a safe direction. We're going to drop the magazine, show that there's no ammo in it. I'm going to set it right here. And then again, point in a safe direction. We're going to pull the charging handle back. We're going to lock the charging handle in place. And we're going to do a visual and physical inspection of the weapon to show that there's no ammo in the weapon. So then we're going to pull the charging handle back, send the bullet forward, and again, pointing in a safe direction, we're going to pull the trigger to drop the hammer and send the firing pin forward. And now this weapon has been cleared and is now safe to go on to the next step. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a field strip with this to prep it for our detail strip. So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, like we did last time, we're going to use our brass punch pin here, and we're going to do the takedown. So I'm going to take our magazine, we'll set it aside, and I'm going to hit my takedown pins with my brass non-marring punch pin. Pull the takedown pins up, and then we're going to separate these two. We're going to separate the lower from the upper. Okay? Now, first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on doing a field strip to this. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to go to the lower. We're going to hit our detent here, our buffer spring detent. And that's going to allow us to take our buffer spring out from our buffer tube up here. Let's see. Now we've got that out. I'm going to take off my brace here. So now that we've got that, we want to continue the field strip. So we're going to focus on our upper. We're going to pull our charging handle back. Take our bolt carrier group out. I'm going to set that right here. Then we're going to set our charging handle right there. And so now this weapon has been fully field stripped down to these components. So now I've got these broken apart. We're going to focus on doing each individual part, doing a detail strip of it. One of the things I want to mention is that, I have a few basic tools as well. I have I have my armorer's wrench here, but I don't yet have a barrel vise. So there's going to be some parts that I'm not going to be able to take off, but I just want to mention that up front. But the parts that I won't take, I'm unable to take off, I will mention those and show little pictures up here somewhere in this area. So I'll show pictures. So we'll do that for that, and then some of the pieces down here for the lower, same kind of thing. I won't be taking them off just because I don't necessarily have the tools to do that, or they're really difficult to take off, such as your takedown pins here. But no, and then another one right here would be my buffer, because I've already got the nut staked down. You stake stuff down so it doesn't back out. So I won't be taking the buffer tube off per se, but again, I'll be explaining that as well. So what we'll do is we'll start with our upper and the constituent parts with that as well. So get reset here, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to take apart the upper as far as we can. And we'll take apart the bolt carrier group. This will be full takedown of this because I've got all tools to do that, and this will be partially taken down. But again, I'll take down on everything, and as we go, we'll be using the tools you see before you. Some various hex wrenches or Allen wrenches, punch, and then a nice screwdriver for helping pry some stuff out. So what we'll do is we'll get started, and we'll speed a few of these parts up because unless I need to stop and talk about something, but we'll just go with that. So again, what I'll do is I'll put the measurements of everything that I have up here across the screen here to show you what this is, and then we'll just go from there. So we'll go ahead and get started. Pro tip, when you're using this type of Allen wrench setup or hex key, instead of pushing them back down to where they don't hold them back like that so you can keep the ones you need. Okay. So now we've got those these screws and various spin downs. We're going to take the we're going to take the hand guard off. So hand guard is off. Flash hider nut. Okay, now we're going to take our gas block and gas tube off. Set that up here. So again, I have a armorer's wrench, but I don't have a block. I have a vise, but I don't have like a barrel vise that I can stick in here to wrench this off. But again, I have my barrel here. I have my castle nut here. So I would twist this off twist this off and remove the barrel. And to put it back on, you would use something like a tension or a torque wrench right here. Specifications for this one are between 40 and 65 torque feet, or 40 to 60 torque something. Dang it. It's between 40 and 60 torque pounds. So that's how we do that. The other pieces we have here are going to be our dust cover. And there's a spring that's right here, and then there's a pin that goes through here as well. Additionally, we also have our forward assist. You can actually see, let's see if you can see it in there. Probably not, but you know, that's our forward assist. Once you take the barrel and the castle nut off, you have just the upper, which is from everything right there. So that would be the upper. So that if I could take it apart, this would all come off, and you know, flash hider on it. So we're going to set that. Right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take apart our bolt carrier group, and to do that, it's just a couple of different parts, but mostly what we're going to do is we're going to take a screwdriver. We're going to find our pin right here, which is basically just a cotter pin. We're going to pull that out ever so gently. I'm going to set that down right there. We're going to turn this piece right here. Drop our firing pin out first. Turn that. Drop that piece out right there. We're going to pull our bolt out. Set that down. So we have our discrete parts of our firing pin, we have our bolt, and then we have these two pieces right here which connect the bolt into the bolt carrier group and firing pin. And I'll put the names down there too as well. So I'll just put all these names up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the lower. So again, like I said previously, there's some parts I'm not going to, I can't take off or don't have the tools to. You know, but generally speaking, I can take apart most of this. The only things we won't be taking off will be the buffer tube here, because I've already staked down the buffer tube nut right here. The other things I won't be taking off are going to be the takedown pins, because they've got detents in them that will fly off. But other than that, we will be taking this apart as much as we can. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a hand guard off. So come down here. So you can see I got the spring that came out from here. This spring, there should be a detent in here too. Yep. So those are the safety spring and detent. So you can see that my safety is now fairly useless. All right. Anyway, next step, we'll get the safety out here in a minute. But what we're going to do is we're going to take off. We're going to take out the trigger, hammer, and assembly. So we're going to set these aside right here. We're going to take our punch. Right. Go. All right. So we've got our trigger out, got our hammer out, got we got the trigger assembly out. So, and we got our two trigger pins here, trigger pins that seat in here. Got our safety selector out. Make sure we don't make sure you don't mix any parts up. So we're gonna set these over here. We're gonna go with that. Trigger, assembly, springs, pins, safety selector. So the next thing we're gonna take off is going to be the mag release. And this is pretty simple. We're going to just find us a non-marring punch here. Make sure that spring doesn't come flying out. Alright. So now I've taken this down as far as I'm comfortable taking. So I've got the takedown springs, and then I've got, this is the, not the bolt catch, this is going to be the trigger lock, or trigger release. So smack it. So that's what we've got right there. So that is going to be a takedown, again, of the AR-15, or my precision arrow lower. So that's what we got. So now we're going to put this back together. We're just going to reverse the order of operations. First thing we're going to do, we're going to take our bolt, and we're going to push it in, and we're going to get this hole lined up. I don't know if, let's see if you can see that hole that's actually, there's a hole right there. So we're going to spin that, but we got to get that lined up and down here, pretty lined up. Take this, get her. Take our firing pin, to drop that back in, and then we're going to make sure that hole, you see that hole straight through, that's what we're looking for. We're going to take our pin, ever so gently compress it, push it back in, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make sure it's straight, push it in that way. As you can see, the bolt's now. Firing pin's not coming out, and there's the action of the pin going forward. So our bolt carrier group's back together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put our upper back together. We're going to set this out of the way. Put the dust cover up. First thing we want to do, take our gas tube and gas block, gently put it back in. We don't want to bend this. Make sure it's lined up. There's a hole. I don't know. There's a gas hole right up there. Take that back off. There's a gas hole up there, and it has to be aligned with the hole that's in the gas block here. Luckily, Arrow makes this super easy. So now what we're going to do is, now that we've got that lined up, we're going to take our pins that we had from earlier, our two smallest ones. We're going to put those back in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on our flash hider nut, our flash hider. I'm going to take our hand guard, get that back on there, and we're going to put these screws back in. Okay, now we're going to reassemble the charging handle and the bolt carrier group. And that's how to reassemble the upper. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put everything back together, and then once we get that back together, we'll put both pieces back together, and we'll do a cycle of operations. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put the mag back on, the mag catch or mag release back on. Got that back in. So this is a good time to check. So what we're going to do is we're going to show empty magazine here. It's a good time to check to make sure it fits in, and then do a mag, and then depress the button. Comes out. So that's in perfect. Now what we're going to do is we're going to reassemble the trigger. All right, so we're just going to jump right into it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take our lower. We're going to take our safety selector. Get that in there. Cool. So you see that the orientation of the spring is very important as well. Those two little lips, or two little clip, not L shapes, they're like dog legs, need to be facing forward, need to be facing that direction when you put the spring on. Again, we'll drop that back in there. Alright, so now we've got that. We're going to take the disconnector. But the orientation is important, so it needs to be going in the same direction. So start with my pen here. There we go. Finally got it through. Okay, I'm sure I'm going to put a compilation of all the failures I just had right there. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the safety select. We're going to do the safety selector. Actually, we're going to put the buffer tube in first with the detent and buffer spring. We're going to slide that bad boy in there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come get our detent. This one looks like a little bullet, funny enough. And we're going to drop it down into the well right there. Make sure it's seated correct. Okay, we're going to take our spring. What we're going to do is we're going to actually come, oops. All right, got that back on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick little functions check. So we're on fire right now. So we're going to pull the hammer back to simulate pull-in charging handle. See, it works. Pull it back. Set it safe. See, it doesn't fire. Looks like we got that back together pretty good. All right. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to put everything back together, do a function check with snap caps, and be right back. All right, last thing we're going to do is we're going to put this back together and do a cycle of operations test. So first thing I'm going to do is, what we're going to use is we're going to use snap caps. So I'm going to show that I've got no ammo in here. And again, this has just been stripped, so there's no ammo in here. But I'm going to load these up with snap caps real quick. These are simulated rounds. Set that aside right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this back together. So to do that, we're going to carefully put the front in first and get it lined up so we get that takedown pin in place like that. Lower the back end, put the takedown pin that way. So we're going to do just a quick little functions check with nothing in it real quick. Get her back into focus. Charge the handle goes back, pointing in a safe direction even though there's nothing. Turn it to safe real quick, as you can, let's turn it up, show it's on safe. And then we're going to pull the trigger to see if anything happens. And it doesn't. Put it to fire, and it does. All right, so cool. So now we're going to do, again, taking our magazine, we just loaded with 2 snap caps. Put that in the magazine, seat it properly, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do a cycle of operations, feeding, chambering. Saw it feed and chambered, and then cocked and locked. And now we're going to do a firing. Heard that distinct snap. And again, if this was normal round, the gas would push back and extract and eject the round. So it did that, and then it's going to load the next round in, and let her finger off the trigger. Cool. And then that simulated the firing. Now we're going to extract and eject. It did that, and because there's no more simulated rounds there, it is locked open, which is what it's supposed to do. So now we're going to send the bolt forward. We're going to drop our magazine, show there's no ammo, point in a safe direction, pull the trigger. This weapon has been field stripped, then detail stripped as far as I was comfortable, and then reassembled through a lot of effort, but we got it back together. So, yeah, we'll go back over to the screen over here and we'll do a quick little outro.
So that was a full clearing of the weapon, a field strip, and then a detail strip of my AR-15 7-inch. Learned a few things in there. Had some trouble getting the hammer back in and getting some of the pieces out. But again, that's just because, it's been used and it's been put together for a while, so some of those pieces were kind of in there pretty tough. But overall, got to stretch some muscles out and some thinking that I hadn't done in a while. One of the things I wish I had done was had a barrel vise so I could fully take it apart. But as I go down the line in school, what I'll do is I'll probably wind up getting one of those so that I can complete, my final project, which will be an AR-15. So other than that, that was a fun lab. So thanks very much, and look forward to seeing you again.